Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Gerardo Murillo, Business and Development Manager with Security Central. Thank you for joining us for another Insider Series video. Today we have a special guest, someone that I've known for many years and someone who I consider a friend, and someone who I'm going to be talking about all of the latest offerings from alarm.com, what they are, how do they work, how do your business and customers benefit from it. So, and including RVMC as in remote video monitoring. So without any further ado, I'm excited to have Kristin Hebert with alarm.com, who brings a wealth of expertise when it comes to all things alarm.com as well as the security industry. Kristin, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Gerardo. 24 years to be exact. So Alarm.com and I started in the industry in the year 2000 together. So no relation, but we started at the same time.
Wow, well, that's awesome. So, Kristin, as a way to get us started, tell us about your role with alarm.com.
Yep. So I'm the account executive for the Sunbelt territory, which represents Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. I'm a native of Louisiana. If you haven't noticed it yet, you'll catch the accent along the way. So you'll see that Cajun come out here and there.
Awesome, awesome. Um, I'm gonna take you back a few months ago, right to ISC West. I think that was the last time that you and I actually ran into each other.
Yep.
I'm gonna say what an exciting event you guys had. I mean, you guys seem to be busy at all times. It was a great event. I'm gonna say that, in my opinion, over the last few years, this has been one of the most well-attended events that that I've seen. So with that being said, how much new stuff do you guys get to unveil at this event?
Oh, great question because it's a lot. We showed some stuff that is coming out now. Like we have some surprises literally within the next couple weeks that you'll see. But also we kind of forecasting out in the future also. So you get to kind of visualize some of those things that we might not see for another 6 months to a year, but it's going to get your mind thinking about, man, if I need that device, I may need to reposition my sales tactics or my technical expertise to this to get ready for that, right? So you just never know going to that show what you're going to see, how far it's going to be out, but how it can affect you today, even though that product may not be coming out now.
Absolutely. So I was able to see, most of the new, I'm going to say hardware, cameras, floodlights. I think the floodlights, that's been an awesome and well received by the dealers technology, right? The new doorbells. And for the audience here, if you find this, very fascinating, just wait until you hear what we have for you today when it comes to RVMC. But before we get to that, I'd like to talk with Kristin about all the integrations that we have with our friends at alarm.com here at Security Central. I can tell everyone that as of today, there's not a single feature from alarm.com that Security Central does not support. We support absolutely everything and we're proud of it. So we're going to be getting into some of these features that I believe will serve as a reminder to our dealers of what they are, what they do, and if we can share some of the best practices. In my opinion, these features and at times the combination of them set alarm.com ahead of the competition. And there's a reason why these guys continue to just raise the bar year over year. So with that being said, Kristin, I'm gonna, if you wouldn't mind, just telling us a little bit more about some of these features. Some of these have been
Yep.
already, I'm gonna say, on a daily basis. Dealers get to use it, right? For instance, if you can expand a little bit more about Crash and Smash, two-way audio, um, in-app property panic versus in-app panel panic, what the difference between the two of them is.
Yep.
Something new that is going to come into uh, um, the next few weeks. Zone sync, account info updates, panel alarm cancel verification, and here's a new one: non-intrusion zone sync. And last but not least, enhanced call verification, ECV. I know it's quite a bit, but Kristin, I know that you're the right man for to tell us all about these features.
All good. We'll start from the beginning. Let's start with crash and smash, right?
Yep.
So that is the instance of where someone breaks in and they literally smash the panel and hoping to disable the communicator. Well, panels of old, that happened, right? And you could literally, if you timed it correctly, you could stop the communication from the panel because of exit delays, transmission or entrance delays, transmission delays, those kind of things. So what we do is we take it a little bit further, and we're going to still push that signal when the door opens. Even though there's an entrance delay, we're going to push that to alarm.com, but alarm.com is going to hold it. We're not going to send it to Security Central yet. If the transmission delay and or any combination of that and the entrance delay run out and we haven't seen a valid code, then we're going to push it to your team at Security Central. And now y'all can act upon it just like it was a traditional burglar alarm, but maybe a little bit higher priority, right? So that's crash and smash. That's defeating that, hey, I'm going to try to beat that old style panel from communicating and calling the police. Two-way voice. Two-way voice can be used in a number of different ways. I know some of the bigger national companies, they have used it to where we can talk, or the central station can talk through the panel to communicate with people. Now, we can do that. Most of the panels that we integrate with today, that are sold today, can do that feature. But that part isn't as much sold as it used to be. The two-way voice that we do now is through video cameras and video devices, right? So now we can communicate on the edge, outside, on the perimeter, in the parking lot to people. If it's a car lot, welcome to Friendly Motors. Please note that our hours are this to this. Feel free to browse for the next 10 minutes, but you are under video surveillance. It's non-intrusive. It tells them what they need to know without saying, hey, I'm calling the cops, So two-way voice is just a little bit different than what we used to, which we could still do both methods, as I'm sure Security Central does on some accounts. And then the third way for two-way voice is with PERS, with medical alerts. That's still a thriving business, and the two-way voice is done through those. We integrate with 2GIG, and 2GIG has a sister panel, Numera, that does that. So we know that, there are things out there that you can do two-way audio with on the PERS side. In-app property panic compared to in-app panel panic. I'm going to take the panel side first. So the in-app panel panic is depending on the age of your panel, okay? So if I have a newer Qualsys 2GIG, it doesn't matter what I have programmed as far as keypad panics. So if on the older panels, like a DSC 1832 or a Vista 20, where we have a SIM module on it, something like that. When you walk up to the keypad, I'm holding on my phone, but when you walk up to the keypad and push a panic, that panic has to be programmed, right? If that panic is programmed, then we can push that panic in the app and give them the same capability as pushing the buttons on the keypad, but in the app now. But it has to be programmed. So if you don't have the medical alert programmed on the keypad panic, it won't work in the app. Now, on the Qualsys side, the 2GIG side, the newer panels that we integrate with, it doesn't matter what's programmed on the panel, we could still push that panic to the central. So that's what the panel panic, in-app panel panic does to us. So now, in essence, if I'm at Walmart and my daughter calls or texts and says, there's a creepy guy at the front door, I can hit the panic, hopefully, deterring him away, but also sending the police to my residence. So a couple things there. And then in-app property panic, this, you kind of alluded to the next big secret in the industry, right? So remote video monitoring console, we'll get to that one later. But this in-app property panic directly integrates with that, right? So now we don't need an alarm panel, just like with some of the other features. We can have a video-only account that is being monitored through RVMC with Security Central. And now, even though there's no Berg panel, we can still give them the capabilities of having those panics in the app. So huge benefit, because yes, are we still in the burglar alarm business? We're in the security business. We need to secure people. I like to tell salespeople, we're in the safety, convenience, and security business. And most of the time it's in that order. So if you're leading with security, a lot of times you're going to lose. But if you're leading with safety and or convenience, you're going to win a lot more often. And that's what we're here for today. Those things that we're talking about are more safety and convenience. Yes, it has a security aspect, but it's bringing those things in. So zone sync is literally kind of what it says, right? So when technician finishes programming a panel, they can hit zone sync in mobile tech or in partner portal, and it literally grabs all the zones that are programmed on that account and pushes it to the central station. I know when I was a technician, central station didn't like me, right? Because I wrote the zone list on literally anything I can get my hands on, which included the box of the panel or the keypad box. And I'd have the zone list on there because I didn't carry paper, I barely had a pen most of the time.
Piece of napkin, left behind with a
You
zone
never
list.
know. That's right. So, I would, have that, and I'd come back to the office and hand that to someone, and they'd have to type it up or write it up and fax it to the central station. That's what that is. So we can, take those zones and automatically push it through an integration into Security Central's software, right? So it takes a little bit of data entry out of it, but also takes the human element of, do I have dyslexia, and did I just write something totally incorrect, right? And swap zones and those kind of things. And then the other one is account info updates that we give the customer. If the dealer chooses, we can give the customer the ability to be able to update their own information, right? Which includes call list and passwords. So now if I need to reorder the call list, like I'm on vacation tomorrow, right? So I'm going to move Gerardo up one, and I'm going to move me to the second call so I don't get the call when I'm on vacation, and Gerardo's going to get the call for our business today, right? Or tomorrow. So we can do that as end users from the in-user app in alarm.com. Hugely beneficial. It's a thing. Customers, dealers are going to have to weigh that option, because we all know, wink, wink, that one customer or 5 customers that we have, that you do not want them to have that capability, because you just know it's going to be a disaster after we finish. Well, your customer base, so you can notify those that need it and not notify those that don't. So we can pick and choose doing that. Cancel verify. Cancel verify is a hugely beneficial feature with the central station involved, because now during an alarm, if you have a transmission delay programmed on your panels, we can now populate the cancel verify feature inside the app. So when they get the notification that the alarm went off, they click on that notification, it launches the alarm.com app, and then they have a cancel and verify button, green and red, go and stop, right, at the top of the screen. So now that end user can either cancel the dispatch from the app without any further operation at all, or they can verify it. Now that becomes a burglar alarm verified by user on premise, which is typically going to be a higher priority signal than a generic burglar alarm on the back door, so to speak, right? So with cancel verify, we do this on accounts, but I got to warn everyone. So if you're listening to this, make sure you get with your team at Security Central. Make sure that they are handling cancels the way that this is intended to be, because you may have set protocols years ago that you don't want, or you want them to call on cancels, or you don't want them to call on cancels. So make sure all the protocols are set right. There's always that piece of communicating with the central station that dealers forget. I spent 10 years in a central station, so I know the pain, but I was also a dealer first, so I know the pain on both sides. So get with your central rep and get all those features. Make sure that everything is fine-tuned, especially with the cancel signal. Make sure we communicate and get that right for the customer, because that feature is worthless unless we do that part right. Non-intrusion zone sync. That is probably, Gerardo, my favorite of all of them that we've talked about thus far, only because it includes probably my absolute favorite product alarm.com has ever come out with, and that is FlexIO. So that is a non-security device. It can be security, but in essence, it's a cellular sensor that we can put anywhere in the US, whether it be on AT&T or Verizon. You would order that unit specifically for the network that you needed. There's 3 built-in reed switches. So in programming, you can control which reed switch you want to utilize with the magnet, or we have a wired input on the bottom. We also have a wired output, and we have a 12-volt input. So we can power that device with 12 volts or off a battery. So it could be a standalone. But in essence, think of a door sensor, but on cellular, and it doesn't need to tie to a panel. While it can, it doesn't need to. Today, that sensor will only connect to IQ4 products with Qualsys or higher, and it is very soon going to be connected to 2 gig edge. So not every panel, so that customer may need to use that device standalone, but that non-intrusion zone sync is going to come from that device. But also future devices like cameras will be able to push in because of things like remote video monitoring console that we haven't talked about yet. But we've alluded to it twice, so it's getting close. And then the last one is enhanced call verification. This is old school, but it got a fresh name, so to speak, and got buzzword and back pushed into the industry as a standard. Enhanced call verification, in essence, all we're doing from the central station side is calling 2 people before we dispatch, right? That could be a premise and a key holder, 2 key holders. The customer, if they're utilizing the account info updates, they can control what 2 phone numbers are contacted before. Any questions, Gerardo?
Well, I can tell you, and thank you, Chris, for giving us, more information on all of these features. I can tell you that our software at Security Central, which is Manitou, we have the ability, pretty much everything that you alluded, from the dealer making changes, and all that automatically gets updated. So that's a great feature. Now, I'm going to switch gears, or at least start to switch gears here a little bit. And something that I've been kind of following, and this is a trend that I've been following over the last few months, video integrations. And I think, in my opinion, and you also kind of alluded to the security portion aspect of it, video integrations is the best proven RMR option that makes an account sticky. Okay, it reduces attrition, I'm gonna say big time. So with that being said, could you elaborate a little bit more about the differences between, or what they are, visual verification, two-way audio for monitoring response, and you mentioned about cameras now supporting two-way voice, and last but not least, RVM.
All right, so we'll start with visual verification. So, and visual verification, that's our terminology for it, so to speak. You may have, and when I say you, the dealer listening to this video, may have already been doing something very similar previously. But in essence, what visual verification is, according to alarm.com, is we need something to trigger the central station to then click in a link that is given to them in their software to get to the camera system. Okay, so typically that trigger is going to be the alarm panel, right? So if we're using the alarm panel as the trigger, we have a couple hurdles we got to cross, right? Number one, it could mean they're already in the building because they had to get into an intrusion zone, which could be the front door, back doors, so on and so forth. Or we have outdoor appliances like outdoor motions and beams, and we know that those can cause false alarms, which most anything can cause false alarms in the right environment or wrong environment, but they're more prone to those type of alarms, right? So with visual verification, we need that trigger, and then the central station can act upon the signal accordingly, right? And then we can build the protocols once they get into the video, what happens, right? You as the dealer works with your customer to get those protocols, and then you work with Security Central to build that out, to make sure that what their operators are looking for is the same expectation on what the customer is wanting them to do, right? So that's visual verification. Two-way audio, I mean, we touched on it earlier. I use the Friendly Motors thing. I use that one all the time. And it's just the easy way to introduce and talk about two-way audio over video, because, hey, it's almost like a mini commercial for that car lot, right? Reminding that person, I don't know it's Gerardo, but hey, Gerardo, I'm here. I'm watching you. You can come back. We're open Monday through Friday and here and here and here. But just know if I see a crowbar, I'm dispatching, So it's something to that effect. It's those subtleties that we can add in with layers like two-way audio on video monitoring accounts. And then the granddaddy of them all, right? If we're football fans, right? The granddaddy of them all. Remote video monitoring console is we're taking that triggering from the alarm panel aspect out of it. So when I tell you you can have a video only system and monitor it at Security Central, that would be true. That would not be a false statement. So now with alarm.com and RVMC, we're taking the trigger from the analytic rule violation. So we're looking for people, vehicles, animals to violate either a ground zone, which could be a drawn box in the scene. Think of it more as like a loitering rule. So a person, a vehicle, or an animal has to be inside that box for a period of time, and then I can trigger the alarm, right? That analytic rule violation is technically the triggering alarm to Security Central, and then they can act upon that depending on how the protocols and what is seen. And then the other rule is a virtual tripwire. And I always say this, no matter how hard you try, even our friend Jonathan Jennings, he wouldn't even trip over it, right? It's virtual, you can't see it. So it's just one of those things that we can set up. And if a person, a vehicle, or an animal crosses in one direction or the other, or both, then we can trigger that to the central station. We can also put time frames on all of those. So now, we only sending, those signals to the central within the specified times that the system needs to be monitored, and it doesn't have to be a 24/7 type of situation.
So, one of the things that I like about RVM, I think the most, and I'm sure, our audience and dealers watching this video will agree with me, sending or having the ability to send events besides the ones triggered by a security device, right? Smoke sensor, CO device, etc. Now we have analytics actually doing that and transmitting a video event back to us, the monitoring station, right? Thinking about RVM just enhancing being proactive. I'm gonna say, video analytics at its best. And what I like, it's just the fact that you can reduce potential break-ins before they take place, and including false alarms, because now back at the central station, the operator can see this is a non-critical type of event. I'm not dispatching, versus this is a critical event. I need to take action. So with that being said, what role does video analytics play in RVM?
It's paramount, because it becomes the alarm panel in the traditional sense. It is the trigger point. So when that analytic rule is violated, we're pushing it to the central station. So your team at Security Central can handle that based on the protocols that the dealer set up with the end user and you guys. So now, like I said before, we can literally have a camera system alone set up, quote unquote, on an island by itself with no other devices, and we can still monitor it. And we're doing a couple things. If we're putting cameras on the outside of a building and detecting before they get inside, we can potentially deter them from even breaking in. So we could save money and insurance claims and all that kind of stuff from happening, right? So the best deterrence at all. And, we can keep them from getting their feet on the carpet. What does that mean? They're inside your business or your home. We want to keep them out. Let's keep them out. Let's deter them. Let's push, two-way voice and those kind of things down to them when we detect them in the parking lot, in the yard, those kind of things before they get inside.
So we're getting now into what you would refer to as property actions, if you agree. Mm-hmm. I know that cameras now, you guys have the ability to do warning sounds, talk down. And very soon, going back to property actions, I know that operators at the central station are going to be able to turn, lights on and off if that is the case. So with that being said, what better way to increase perimeter safety, and a great opportunity for the dealer to increase RMR and the average revenue per user. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. So we can do a few things there, because not just turning on lights, which that's probably the greatest deterrence.
Mhm.
We have, until now, we're about to release our floodlight camera, right? So that's not a secret. Everybody kind of knows that. It's been all over Facebook and everything. But selling against the competition that has a floodlight camera, when a floodlight camera comes on, that's one light coming on. With what we're doing, when analytic rules violated, we're notifying the customer, notifying the central station if they're an RVM customer, and we can turn on lights. Wouldn't it seem better, rather than just turning on that floodlight? What if I turn on the kitchen light? Do you think somebody's going to try to enter that house then? Probably not, right? So that's the best deterrence we can give. But when we're doing the property actions, which is coming soon, for Security Central and to Alarm.com dealers and centrals nationwide, what we're doing there is, while the operator is in a signal for a remote video monitoring account, they're actually given options, property actions, to be able to turn on lights. But let's say Gerardo's out of town and something happens at his business, and the police are on the phone, and we got Gerardo on the phone, and we're at the central, and we're like, Gerardo, the police are at the door. They see shadows or something inside. They're about to break your door down. Do you authorize me to grant them access? Because now, if you have access control or Z-Wave door locks, we can grant access from the central station side and save you a front door, right? Or save your customer a front door. And we know customers don't buy cheap, Lowe's front doors anymore. They're $5,000 and $6,000, right?
Absolutely. And nobody wants to be, liable for those ones.
No.
Um, so, what's needed for a dealer to be RVMC ready? As far as hardware, goes, what kind of hardware is required? Number one, and is there a service package needed?
Yep. So, good question. Hardware, it's any current Alarm.com camera, including doorbells. Our doorbells can even do remote video monitoring. And in the service package, you would just need to turn on the remote video monitoring console service package. That is a per camera deal. So while you may not have all cameras pushing notifications to the central station, they will be able to have, live view for all cameras. So just keep that in mind. Doing one camera at a time, or one camera per account, may not be the most feasible, right, for everyone. We want multiple cameras being able to send signals to the central, because we can see them all live. So, but that's it, really. It's any camera that we sell today that you can get off the shelf at, your local distributor, or direct from Alarm.com's order page. And then the service package is literally what it says: remote video monitoring console. Turn that on. It's per camera. You select how many cameras you have. Finished.
Perfect. Sounds easy enough. As far as use cases, Kristen, what do you think? What type of scenarios will you say the RVM can be a great solution beyond, your conventional security method? New construction site comes in mind.
Yes, no doubt. New construction is huge. I'll tell you, um, going through this process, I have been on site with dealers at some of their locations. And I have been so proud and so surprised at some of the things that have come up. Landscaping companies have been huge, right? So landscaping companies, they park their trucks in the yard, whether it's a gated, yard or not. They have potential loss. Most of them have their own gas pumps. So people jump the fence, steal gas, break in cars,
Take whatever they
steal
need.
weed eaters, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So just those little things. I tell dealers all the time, you want to know what accounts you can do remote video monitoring on? You probably pass 5 of them coming to work today. The most inconspicuous, just if it disappears in the scenery, that's probably the one that a criminal's going to hit. So look for those. It's literally diamonds in the rough, because you don't notice them unless you're looking for them. So on your way to work, on your way between appointments, look at those hard to get to locations, right? That's where you can put this type of service. Because if it's hard for you to find and figure out what that business is, or how to get into the parking lot, that makes it easier for a thief to break in or, go on that yard, because if it's hard for somebody, then they don't want to, do it other than a criminal.
Okay. Now, getting into a little bit of programming of RVMC and recording rules. How easy is it for a dealer to set up recording rules when it comes to RVMC?
Well, I'll tell you. So if you already know how to add a camera in alarm.com and set up an analytic rule, if you can click one more box, you can set up RVM on that account. It's literally, once you have the service package set up and you add that camera into the account, right? Now, when I go into the analytic rule setup and where I normally set the notifications for customers, I got one more box, Security Central. That is it.
Huh. Wow. It can't get any easier than that, love it. What would you say as far as, everything that we just covered? But what are some of the differentiators of RVM comparing, to everything else out there?
Yeah. Look, we have a lot of competition out there. I'll tell you that the easiest for me, I always think simplistic. I'm Cajun. Cajuns aren't very well represented on TV. They see the water boy and swamp people and think we're some of the most uneducated people on the planet. So I kind of go with that, and simple works for me, right? Because my supposed people are simple, but we're not, by the way. But we are easy. We don't need any additional anything. There's no controller device. There's no any in between type hub or anything. So I can take a camera, whether it's Wi-Fi or PoE, give it power, give it network, and I can push it to Security Central right now. That's all I need. I need an active camera with an active analytic rule, no hub, no switch. Well, you need a switch if it's PoE, no bridge, no NVR, none of that. Plus, we can use doorbells. That's a huge benefit because I don't know of anyone else in this space that can utilize a doorbell to trigger. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of criminals, especially in the commercial space, leave through the front door. What's at the front door? We can put a doorbell right there and get the best view possible of them, right, as they're leaving.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I've been testing the new one, PoE. That is, it blew my mind. From, the video itself is so crystal clear. The fact that it's connected to an NVR, recording 24/7. So I don't have to wait until actually somebody, clicks the button. It's just fantastic. Fantastic. Another thing that I like, about alarm.com, and there's so many things that I like about, alarm.com, but having everything in the entire ecosystem in a single app, controlling intrusion, life safety, to automation, to access control, cancel verification, and everything else that we just covered, right? To me, it's a no-brainer. There's nothing like it in the market. So will you sum up RVMC configuration in 4 easy steps using the partner portal? If you could take us through those steps, if you could.
Yep. So we could talk about it in 2 different ways. So let's set up the dealer. So you as the dealer listening to this video, how do you get set up for the central station to be able to activate or receive those signals for you? So you log into Partner Portal, you go into My Business, you hover over My Business, go into Monitoring Stations. You're going to click on the Remote Video Monitoring Console link in your monitoring station settings, and that is going to trigger someone at Security Central, and that can be turned on from there. So they'll work with you to get that turned on. Once that's turned on, then it's the same process we just talked about. I activate an account, I add a camera to that account in the service package, I make sure Remote Video Monitoring Console is turned on for the number of cameras that I need monitored at Security Central. And then now when I go into that camera or cameras, create the analytic rule and check that one box that says Security Central in the notifications, save it, and we're done. And now we can start testing.
Yeah. And I can tell you, once the dealer starts to test every single device, and we, as a central station, start getting those signals coming in from the operator experience, I can share with you, our audience and dealers here. We utilize Manitou, that's our automation software. The operator will get that event, that video event. It's as simple as just clicking on that event. Then a window will pop up. They get to see, at this point, they're in the alarm.com portal. They get to select from three different options: environmental, non-critical, critical, depending on what they see. How, as they review the video, is there a person on premises? If there is one, person of interest or intruder at this point, yes, they can say this is a critical event, right? And take it from there. I know that alarm.com has made it easy on the central station in terms of we can review 15 minutes prior of that event and 15 minutes after that event. In addition to that, operators have been taught that, just go into live view to confirm that indeed there's nobody on premises. And at that point, if there's no need to dispatch, then, just let the customer know, hey, everything is good. If there's a need to dispatch or going back into the property actions, then the operator will take care from it from that point onwards. Whether it's just pushing a button to send a pre-recorded event message, or getting into the talk down feature and having a two-way conversation with the person of interest, assuming that you have a camera that supports two-way voice, right? And that's basically, from the operator experience perspective, that's how easy it is to interact with RVMC. What extra features, Kristin, are being currently worked on that will enhance RVM within the next, few weeks or the near future?
The ability to look at and get triggers from third-party cameras through OnVIF compatible devices. So with one of our recorders, actually two of our recorders now, we have a new line coming or releasing now, but we have recorders that can take OnVIF compatible cameras into them. And if you have that on an RVMC account, the central station can see those cameras live during an event, but they can't be triggered from those cameras. Now, that's changing in the future. We're gonna be able to trigger the RVM notification to the central from those cameras, those third-party OnVIF cameras in the future.
Okay, excellent. And I can tell you that I've been testing OnVIF cameras on my recorder, and they work just flawlessly. Connected, one of the cameras to the back of it, just went into third party. And you have to make sure, if a dealer has to make sure that they enable the third party option within the settings. Once you do that, just click on that third party. Alarm.com goes out and scans the network, and once it finds it, it comes back with, hey, I found this one. And all you have to do is just add it. Very straightforward.
Yep.
So
some other things is we showed it at ISC West, so we do have an IP speaker, IP horn coming. So that way, that two-way voice conversation from the central station down to the, let's call them bad actors, right? So the perpetrator, the bad actor, we can have that two-way voice conversation, whether they talk back or not, through the cameras. Depending on where the camera's mounted, it may not be feasible because you may not be able to hear it very well, right? So with the integration with this IP horn, we'll be able to blast it down a lot more, effectively down to a parking lot and those kind of things with that integration. So that'll be coming soon. Also, cancel verify for remote video monitoring is coming. You mentioned the pre-recorded. That is being worked on, but I'll tell you, we have something else that is actually being tested right now. I'm actually testing it on my account, which is AI. So there's one thing, even in my experience in the central station, especially doing video monitoring, there are times that operator is going to be put in a very precarious situation, right? So without a script and having to ad lib a two-way voice talk down from an operator can get very stressful for people, right? So caution you, put in effect, some kind of script so they can follow, so it doesn't, have anything. It'll just help defeat a stressful situation. But what we're doing is we're going to take that operator completely out of that situation, and we're going to use AI. So I'm testing it on my account. I know many dealers are testing it, across the country right now, but AI is going to do it for us. So as I walk in front of my cameras at my home, my wife hates it, but I absolutely love it because I love testing stuff, right? And it says, hey, you in the orange shirt and black pants, please, note you are on my premises, whatever the case may be. So it looks for what you're wearing, where you are at. So if I'm walking on the grass, if I'm walking on the driveway, if I'm walking to a vehicle, away from a vehicle, with something in my hand, if I have a backpack on, it's looking for those type of things, and it enunciates what it sees. So there's no greater call to action than, hey, you in the orange shirt, right? That is the greatest call to action. And we're taking that operator out of that stressful situation and letting the AI come through that speaker for them. So just wanted to point out that the future is really, really coming soon.
Individual wearing a black jacket and blue jeans, please leave my industrial area.
Awesome. Well, Kristin, with that being said, we have concluded our session today. I really appreciate you coming on board and spending your valuable time just walking us through everything from alum.com, all the latest and greatest from alum.com.
Yep. Anytime. Loved it.
Thank you for joining us for our first Scan Insider Series video. We would like to extend a special thank you to Kristin Hebert with alum.com for joining us for today's video. Be sure to check out all of the extras, contact information, and downloads all in the Scan Insider Series portal. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.